Chapter 12:12, Spreading Radiance. Just now, as Klein was thinking of a solution, an image naturally came to mind. The clouds in the two mountains began to boil rapidly as they spread out to the left and right, revealing a crack whose bottom couldn't be seen. The orange-red rays of the sunset filled it and formed a corporeal path. This was a scene created when blasphemer Ammon entered the projection of the giant king's court. And just as he felt that he didn't know enough about the corresponding powers and planned on switching to another method, the red, green, blue, and transparent gems on the staff of the stars had already begun to emit a faint glow as they automatically activated. The solidified grayish-white fog was similarly boiling, but it wasn't that intense. They were churning backward as they parted, but the area right in front of him remained an endless grayish-white mass. There was no end to it. Klein sighed in his heart. As he focused on controlling his thoughts, he made other attempts. In the past 3 minutes, he had tried hard at least 10 times. 7 times were of his own will, while 3 times were him venting out, but he was ultimately unable to open the invisible barrier. Indeed, normal methods don't work. With a flick of his wrist, he allowed the historical projection of 062, which was close to its limit, to disappear from the real world. He stared at the silent grayish-white fog and didn't move for about a minute. It was as if he had turned into a statue. Finally, Klein closed his eyes and looked away. Holding the lantern in his hand, he walked towards the nearby humans who were watching. He didn't plan on making blind attempts because there was a high chance that he wouldn't succeed. He planned on asking the people who had stood guard in the vicinity for 2,000 to 3,000 years. It was obvious that these ancient survivors had explored the grayish-white fog. He wanted to see if he could find inspiration from their years of experience. Based on Klein's assumption, the humans would definitely react excessively towards him, so he had already prepared the corresponding powers to allow them to speak to him calmly. However, when he looked at the light of dusk on both sides of the lantern, he realized that the ugly or deformed humans were staring at him with their mouths agape. They looked confused and shocked, as if they had temporarily lost their ability to think. Klein frowned slightly. In the darkness, he walked unhurriedly to the ancient survivors and stopped about 2 to 3 meters away. "What do you know about this fog?" Klein asked in Jotun with a deep voice. The language that could stir the powers of nature didn't have any differences because of geography. There was only a slight difference in the accent, but it wasn't much. If the original version was modified, there was a chance its effects in ritualistic magic would be lost. It was only when Jayaman Sparrow raised the question that Adal seemed to snap out of his daze. His lips quivered as he answered in an ambiguous tone, We have never caused the fog to change before." Just now, Jayaman Sparrow had caused the fog to boil like water and part to the sides. This scene had really frightened them, as though they were witnessing a miracle. The 2,000 to 3,000 years of hard work from numerous generations of Moon City inhabitants were inferior to a person holding a staff with an attempt that didn't last more than 200 heartbeats. This was also the main reason why they had given up on resisting when Jayaman Sparrow approached them. They instinctively believed that, no matter how they avoided him, it would be to no avail. After 2 seconds of silence, Klein continued asking, "Do you have any corresponding records?" At this moment, Adal understood what Jayaman Sparrow meant. He hesitated for a moment and slowly nodded. Yes, however, only the high priest and the others would frequently look through it. Wearing a black trench coat and half-top hat, Klein thought for a moment and suddenly reached out to pull out an item from the void. It was a cross covered in bronze, with several sharp spikes protruding out from it. It was the historical image of the ancient sun god's unshadowed crucifix. With the cross in hand, Klein raised it a little higher and aimed it at the ancient survivors. Pure, bright, and warm light bloomed, dispersing the darkness around them and illuminating them. Their combat experience made them instinctively attempt to defend themselves, but their actions stopped midway through the process. The brightness and warmth wasn't something a bonfire could compare with. This made the remaining members of the Moon City hunting team recall the deities described by the ancient books and the high priest. They were deities who emitted boundless light and brought boundless warmth. Under the illumination of the bright, pure light, a distorted, struggling, illusionary black gas that seemed to have a life of its own began to boil from the bodies of Adal, Zin, and company, quickly rising and dissipating. The members of the Moon City hunting team felt their bodies become more relaxed, and the pressure within their souls disappeared. After purging the cumulative corruption and ailments of their bodies, Klein shook his wrist slightly, causing the unshadowed crucifix to disappear in front of him. Right on the heels of that, he grabbed another cane that looked an ordinary wooden color. This was the former City of Silver's sealed artifact, Life's Cane. Although he had already sacrificed it to the Evernight goddess, as long as it was once owned by a scholar of yore, it would only accompany them in a different way. With Life's Cane in hand, Klein took a few steps forward and used the end of the cane to tap the leader of Moon City's hunting team. The experience from before made Adal unable to dodge. The tumors on his face began to crack as pus flowed, faded, and disappeared. In the end, there wasn't even a single scar left. From the looks of his team members, Adal knew that he had undergone a change. He hesitantly raised his right hand and touched his face. From top to bottom and back up again, he kept repeating it. During this process, he realized that he was in an unprecedented healthy state, one that was better than when he first became an adult. Klein didn't look at him. He took a step diagonally and used Life's Cane to treat the rest of the ancient survivors. With Adal as an example, Zin and the others were on their guard and alert as they accepted contact with the cane, and they felt that they had obtained a new lease of life. Amongst them, the two deformed beings who were easily emotional couldn't help but tear up. "Unfortunately, I can't treat natural defects. Mental illnesses can be treated, but some crazy tendencies can't be treated." Klein retracted his right hand and let the historical projection of Life's Cane disappear. He walked to his original spot and turned around. He looked at the ancient survivors and said, "I'm not here to destroy, but to spread the radiance of my Lord, bringing light and warmth. Go back and tell your leader that I'm here. If he's willing, he can come over." He didn't attempt to find out where the gathering point of these ancient survivors was, nor did he plan on going there directly. This would trigger the strongest form of resistance and vigilance. Hence, giving them the choice was the most suitable solution. At that moment, Adal, Zin, and the others were already shocked by Jayam and Sparrow's constant pulling out of mystical items. They felt that they were walking into a miracle and had already been cleansed by the divine light, allowing their physical condition to recover to its optimum state. It even exceeded their peak. "All right," a few seconds later, Adal responded. Just as they turned around and prepared to return to Moon City, flames lit up from the depths of the darkness as they rapidly approached. The leader was an old man wearing a dark brown beast hide. His hair was gray and unkempt, and his face was full of real cracks. "High Priest," after recognizing the other party, Zin blurted out. It was none other than Moon City's High Priest, Nim. Behind Nim followed Ruse and the other members of the hunting team who had returned to the city ahead of time, as well as several other high-sequence Beyonders. Nim nodded at Adal, Zin, and the rest before walking to the front of the group. Looking at the man who claimed to be a missionary, Jayam and Sparrow, he crossed his arms and bowed. "Honorable guest, I am Moon City's High Priest, Nim. Moon City once belonged to vampires, but that civilization had been destroyed in ancient times. Afterwards, we accepted the orders of the great sun god, the Lord who created everything, and we moved here to watch the grayish-white fog and make the corresponding attempts. That continued on even though the land was cursed and the Lord didn't respond to us. To date, 3,722 years have passed.